Hello everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here. Today we'll be exploring some key learning theories and concepts in educational psychology. The focus will be on cognitivism, constructivism, and the influential thinkers Piaget and Vygotsky. Over the next few slides, we'll dive into how these theories shape teaching and learning. So let's get started and explore these fascinating ideas together. Let's explore the importance of understanding how learners learn and develop. Grasping these processes helps us create more effective teaching strategies and support student growth. Connecting theory to practice is crucial. It allows us to apply educational psychology principles directly in the classroom. By doing so, we can tailor our approaches to meet diverse learning needs. Today's workshop will focus on these key points, emphasizing how integrating theory with practice enhances teaching effectiveness. Ultimately, our goal is to improve student outcomes by making learning more engaging and responsive to developmental stages. Let's explore why learning theories really matter in our teaching practice. First, they help us guide instructional decisions. By understanding how students learn best, we can design lessons that are more effective and engaging. Next, they allow us to explain learner differences. Every student comes with unique backgrounds, strengths, and challenges, and knowing these theories helps us tailor our approaches accordingly. Finally, they support inclusive and effective teaching. When we apply sound learning principles, we create a classroom environment where all students have the opportunity to succeed. Overall, understanding learning theories isn't just academic. It's a practical tool that enhances how we teach and connect with our students every day. Let's talk about the scientific study of learning and development. This area of research is really important because it helps us understand how students learn best and how their development unfolds over time. When we incorporate this knowledge, it directly supports teachers' pedagogical reasoning, meaning it helps us make more informed and effective teaching decisions. By applying insights from educational psychology, we can tailor our approaches to meet each learner's needs more holistically. This ultimately leads to better learner outcomes, not just academically, but also in their social and emotional growth. So, in essence, this scientific foundation is crucial because it strengthens our ability to teach in ways that truly support all aspects of a student's development. This ties back to our overall goal of creating more effective, responsive, and impactful teaching practices. Let's take a closer look at some of the key learning theories that shape how we understand learning itself. First, we have cognitivism, which emphasizes the importance of mental processes like thinking, memory, and problem-solving. It suggests that learning involves actively processing information and making sense of new knowledge by connecting it to what we already know. Next, we have constructivism, which takes this idea further by proposing that learners build their own understanding through experiences and interactions. Instead of passively absorbing information, students are seen as active participants who create meaning based on their unique perspectives. Then, we come to the cognitive and sociocultural perspectives. The cognitive perspective focuses on individual mental functions, while the sociocultural perspective highlights the influence of social interactions and cultural context on learning. It recognizes that learning doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's shaped by our environment and social relationships. Finally, this slide provides an overview of learning theories, showing us how these different perspectives contribute to a broader understanding of how people learn. By exploring these theories, we can better tailor our teaching methods to meet diverse learner needs and enhance educational outcomes throughout this presentation. Let's focus on the role of mental processes in learning. When we think about learning as an information processing activity, we're really emphasizing how our minds take in, store, and use information. Memory plays a crucial part here, as it allows us to retain what we've learned and build on that knowledge over time. Prior knowledge, in particular, acts like a foundation, helping us understand new concepts more easily because we're connecting them to what we already know. Now, this idea ties into cognitivism, which is all about understanding the internal processes involved in learning. The core idea is that learning isn't just about external stimuli, but about how our minds actively process information. When we look at learning through this lens, It highlights the importance of designing instructional strategies that align with these mental processes. By doing so, we can make learning more effective and meaningful. This perspective really underscores the importance of understanding how our minds work to improve educational practices overall. Let's take a closer look at how cognitive processes relate to effective teaching strategies. We start with input, which is all about how students receive information from their environment. Then, processing refers to how they interpret and make sense of that information. Memory plays a crucial role here, as it involves storing what they've learned for future use. Retrieval is the final piece, where students access that stored knowledge when they need it. Now, to support these processes, we use structured lessons that guide students step by step. Concept mapping is a fantastic tool because it helps students organize and visualize connections between ideas. Scaffolding ideas is also key. It provides just enough support to help students progress without feeling overwhelmed. All of these strategies are practical applications of cognitivism, which emphasizes understanding how students think and learn. By aligning our teaching with these cognitive principles, we create a more effective learning environment that promotes deeper understanding and retention. So, when we talk about learners actively building knowledge, what we really mean is that learning isn't just about passively absorbing information. Instead, learners engage with the material, make sense of it, and construct their own understanding. Learning is also highly contextual, which means that the environment and real-world situations play a big role in how we grasp new concepts. Prior experience is another crucial factor. What learners already know influences how they interpret and understand new information. It's like building a house. Your previous knowledge forms the foundation for new learning. This approach is rooted in Constructivism, which emphasizes that learners actively create their own understanding rather than just receiving facts. The core ideas here highlight the importance of engagement, context, and prior experience in shaping meaningful learning. By focusing on these principles, we can create more effective teaching strategies that help learners connect new knowledge to their existing understanding, making learning a more personal and impactful process. Let's explore how our understanding deepens through a sequence: experience, reflection, meaning, and application. When we engage in inquiry-based learning, we start by experiencing something firsthand, whether it's a problem or a new idea. Then we reflect on that experience, which helps us process what we've learned. From there, we find the deeper meaning, understanding the significance and how it connects to our prior knowledge. Finally, we apply what we've learned to real-world situations, making the learning truly meaningful and practical. This approach aligns perfectly with problem-solving tasks and student-centered classrooms, where students are encouraged to take ownership of their learning journey. It embodies the principles of constructivist teaching, which emphasizes that learners build their understanding actively rather than passively receiving information. By fostering this cycle, we create an environment where students are engaged, reflective, and empowered to apply their knowledge beyond the classroom. This method not only enhances comprehension, but also prepares students for real-world challenges, making learning a dynamic and meaningful process. Let's explore the differences and similarities between cognitivism and constructivism. Cognitivism focuses on mental processing, meaning it emphasizes how learners think, process information, and store knowledge in their memory. It's all about understanding the internal mechanisms that happen when we learn. On the other hand, constructivism is about knowledge construction. It highlights how learners actively build their understanding through experiences and interactions with their environment. Both of these approaches emphasize active learning. That means learners aren't just passively receiving information. They're engaging, exploring, and making sense of new ideas. Now, when we compare the two, cognitivism is more about the processes happening inside the mind, like memory and problem-solving. Constructivism, meanwhile, focuses on how learners create their own understanding based on their prior knowledge and experiences. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding these perspectives helps us design more effective learning environments. we can incorporate strategies that promote active engagement, whether we're focusing on how the mind processes information or how learners construct knowledge themselves. Let's explore how understanding learner development is fundamental for effective teaching. Recognizing the different stages and needs of learners helps us tailor our approaches so that each student can thrive. Next, we'll talk about designing age-appropriate instruction. It's crucial to adapt our teaching methods and content to match the developmental levels of our students, ensuring that lessons are engaging and understandable for their specific age group. Responding to learner diversity is also key. Every student brings unique backgrounds, abilities, and learning styles. Being responsive means differentiating our instruction to meet these diverse needs, creating an inclusive environment where all learners can succeed. Finally, we'll look at the role of educational psychology for teachers. This field provides us with valuable insights into how students think, learn, and behave. Applying this knowledge enhances our teaching effectiveness and helps us support our students more empathetically and successfully. All these points connect back to our overall goal: to create a learning environment that is responsive, inclusive, and developmentally appropriate, ultimately empowering our students to reach their full potential. Let's talk about some of the key benefits for learners when we focus on these approaches. First, we see improved cognitive development. This means that learners are able to think more critically, solve problems more effectively, and develop a deeper understanding of the material. It's really about enhancing their mental processes and learning capacity. Next, greater motivation plays a crucial role. When learners are engaged and find the learning experience meaningful, they're more likely to stay motivated, participate actively, and pursue their goals with enthusiasm. Motivation is the fuel that keeps the learning process moving forward. Then we have enhanced social learning. This is about how learners benefit from interacting with their peers, sharing ideas, and collaborating. It creates a richer, more dynamic learning environment and helps develop important social skills alongside academic ones. All these benefits tie back to our overall goal: creating a more effective, engaging, and supportive learning experience. When learners experience these improvements, they're more likely to succeed and develop skills that will serve them well beyond the classroom. Development occurs in stages, which means that as children grow, they go through different phases of understanding and skill development. It's important to realize that learning is closely linked to biological maturation. So as their bodies and brains develop, so does their ability to learn new things. Active discovery is also a key part of this process. Children don't just passively absorb information. They explore, experiment, and engage with their environment to make sense of the world around them. This idea ties directly into Piaget's cognitive theory, which emphasizes that children construct their understanding through these active interactions. It's a fascinating perspective because it highlights how children aren't just recipients of knowledge but active participants in their own learning journey. When we look at this overall, it reminds us how crucial it is to support children at each stage, providing opportunities for exploration that match their developmental readiness. Let's take a closer look at Piaget's stages of development, focusing on how children move from concrete to abstract thinking. Starting with the sensory-motor stage, which covers infancy, children learn about the world mainly through their senses and actions. It's all about exploring their environment physically. Next is the pre-operational stage, where they begin to use language and develop symbolic thinking, but their thinking is still quite egocentric and limited in logic. Moving into the concrete operational stage, kids become more capable of logical thought about concrete objects and events. They can understand concepts like conservation and reversibility. Finally, in the formal operational stage, adolescents develop the ability to think abstractly and hypothetically. They can consider possibilities, think about future scenarios, and ponder complex ideas. These stages illustrate how children's thinking evolves from very tangible, concrete experiences to more abstract and sophisticated thought processes. This progression is fundamental in understanding cognitive development, which ties into the overall theme of how we grow and learn over time. Let's take a closer look at some key Piagetian concepts that are fundamental to understanding cognitive development. First, we have assimilation. This is when a child takes new information and fits it into their existing mental frameworks or schemas. Think of it as adding new pieces to an already assembled puzzle. Next is accommodation, which happens when the new information doesn't quite fit and requires the child to modify their schemas or create new ones. It's like adjusting the puzzle pieces to make everything fit better. Then we have equilibration, which is the process of balancing assimilation and accommodation. It's the mental effort to reach a stable understanding of the world, moving between fitting new info in and adjusting our schemas. These concepts are crucial because they illustrate how children actively construct their knowledge, constantly adapting to new experiences. Overall, these key ideas, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration, are central to Piaget's theory because they explain how cognitive development is a dynamic and ongoing process. They show us that learning isn't just about absorbing facts, but about actively making sense of the world around us. Let's talk about readiness for learning. This is a crucial concept because it emphasizes that children need to be developmentally prepared to grasp new concepts. If they're not ready, their ability to learn effectively can be hindered. Next, we have hands-on activities. These are essential because they allow children to actively engage with their environment. By doing so, they can explore and understand the world around them more deeply. Discovery learning is closely related. It encourages children to learn through their own curiosity and experimentation, rather than passive listening. This approach fosters a deeper understanding and promotes critical thinking skills. Now, considering the educational implications of Piaget, we see that his theory suggests teaching should align with the child's developmental stage. For example, younger children learn best through concrete experiences, while older children can handle more abstract thinking. All these points tie back to the overall theme. Understanding how children learn best helps us create more effective educational strategies. By considering their readiness and providing hands-on, discovery-based activities, we can support their natural developmental processes and enhance their learning journey. Let's take a moment to consider some limitations of Piaget's theory. First, there's often limited attention given to culture, which can play a significant role in how children develop and learn. This means that Piaget might not fully account for the influence of cultural differences on cognitive development. Next, Piaget tends to underestimate the importance of social interaction. We now know that interactions with peers and adults are crucial for learning and development, and Piaget's model doesn't emphasize this enough. Another point to keep in mind is that the stages proposed by Piaget may actually overlap in real life. Development isn't always a neat progression from one stage to the next. Children might demonstrate skills from multiple stages simultaneously. Finally, while Piaget's work provides a solid foundation, it does have its limitations, particularly in capturing the full complexity of how children develop cognitively across different contexts. Recognizing these limitations helps us appreciate the ongoing evolution of developmental theories. Learning is socially mediated. What this really means is that our ability to understand and acquire new knowledge is deeply influenced by the social interactions and cultural contexts we are part of. Culture shapes cognition, meaning it plays a crucial role in how we think, interpret, and make sense of the world around us. Language is central to this process because it's the primary tool through which culture is transmitted and shared. When we look at Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, we see a clear emphasis on the idea that cognitive development doesn't happen in isolation. Instead, it's a collaborative process, shaped by our social environment and the cultural tools we have access to. This theory highlights that our learning is not just an individual activity, but is fundamentally connected to the social and cultural context we live in. So, as we continue exploring how humans develop and learn, keep in mind that our social surroundings and language are not just background elements. They are central to shaping our thinking and understanding the world. Let's take a closer look at how a person's abilities can develop with different levels of support. On the left, we have what a person can do independently. These are tasks they can manage on their own. Moving to the middle, with some help or guidance, their potential expands. They can accomplish more than they could alone. And on the right, we see what they can achieve when they are guided through learning, which is where the real growth happens. This idea is closely related to the concept of the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. The ZPD represents the sweet spot where learning is most effective, tasks that are just beyond what someone can do alone, but become possible with support. Recognizing this zone helps us understand how to best support learners and help them reach their full potential. So, in essence, the key here is that support isn't just helpful, it's essential for growth. Now, let's talk about temporary instructional support. This approach involves providing learners with the assistance they need initially, but it's designed to be temporary. The goal here is to gradually reduce that support over time. By doing so, we help promote independence, encouraging learners to apply what they've learned on their own. This process is often referred to as scaffolding. Think of scaffolding as the framework or support system that we put in place to help someone reach a higher level of understanding or skill. As they become more competent, we gradually remove these supports, much like taking away the scaffolding from a building once it's sturdy enough on its own. The key here is the balance, offering enough support to guide learning effectively, but not so much that it stifles independence. This method aligns perfectly with the overall goal of fostering autonomous, confident learners. Let's talk about some key approaches in teaching that really emphasize interaction and cultural relevance. First, we have collaborative learning, which is all about students working together, sharing ideas, and learning from each other. It fosters a sense of community and helps deepen understanding through social interaction. Next is dialogic teaching, where dialogue becomes central to the learning process. Instead of just passively receiving information, students engage in meaningful conversations, asking questions, and constructing knowledge through discussion. Culturally responsive pedagogy is also crucial. It recognizes the diverse backgrounds of students and integrates their cultural experiences into the learning process, making education more relevant and accessible to everyone. Now, tying this all to Vygotsky's educational implications, these approaches highlight the importance of social interaction and cultural context in learning. Vygotsky emphasized that learning is a social process, and he introduced the idea of the zone of proximal development, showing how students learn best when supported by more knowledgeable others. Altogether, these concepts reinforce the idea that effective teaching isn't just about delivering content. It's about creating an engaging, inclusive environment where students actively participate, collaborate, and connect their learning to their cultural identities. This approach not only enhances understanding, but also fosters a more equitable and dynamic educational experience. Let's take a closer look at Piaget and Vygotsky, two influential theorists in understanding development. Piaget emphasizes individual development, focusing on how children actively construct their understanding of the world through stages of cognitive growth. His approach highlights the importance of internal processes and how kids learn through their own exploration. On the other hand, Vygotsky centers on social learning, emphasizing the role of social interactions and cultural context in development. He believed that learning is fundamentally a social process, and that children develop through guided participation and collaboration with more knowledgeable others. Now, when we compare these perspectives, we see that Piaget offers a more self-driven view of development, while Vygotsky stresses the importance of social environment and shared learning. Both perspectives are valuable and, in many ways, complementary. Piaget helps us understand what children can do on their own, and Vygotsky sheds light on how social interactions can extend their learning potential. Together, these ideas enrich our overall understanding of development, showing us that both individual exploration and social engagement play crucial roles. Recognizing this balance can help us better support learning at every stage. Now, as we consider development and social context, it's important to recognize how these factors influence our approach. Understanding the environment in which we're working helps us tailor our strategies effectively. Using guidance strategically means we should be deliberate about when and how we offer support or direction. It's about finding the balance that encourages independence while providing enough structure. Encouraging active learning is crucial as well. When learners are engaged and participating actively, they retain information better and develop critical thinking skills. It's all about creating opportunities for them to explore and apply concepts in real time. Finally, integrating theories into practice allows us to bridge the gap between what we know academically and what we do practically. By doing so thoughtfully, we can enhance our effectiveness and foster meaningful learning experiences. Remember, these points tie back to our overall goal: to develop well-rounded, adaptable learners who can thrive within their social contexts. Let's take a closer look at some key aspects of our teaching practice. First, informed pedagogical decisions are essential. This means using evidence and reflection to guide our teaching strategies, ensuring we're meeting our learners' needs effectively. Reflective teaching is a vital part of this process. It's about regularly assessing what works and what doesn't, and making adjustments accordingly. By doing this, we create a more responsive and personalized learning environment. Enhanced learner support is another critical point. When we're making informed decisions and reflecting on our practice, we're better equipped to identify where learners might need extra help and how to provide that support. This proactive approach helps improve engagement and success. Finally, these practices have significant implications for our professional practice overall. They encourage us to be lifelong learners ourselves, constantly seeking ways to improve and adapt. Integrating these concepts ensures we're not only delivering content, but also fostering a positive, supportive, and effective learning experience for all. Learning theories guide effective teaching. They provide the foundation for understanding how students learn best and inform our instructional strategies. Educational psychology bridges theory and practice by translating these theories into practical methods we can apply in the classroom. This connection helps us support holistic learner development, addressing not just academic skills, but also emotional and social growth. In conclusion, understanding these concepts is crucial because they shape how we create engaging, inclusive, and effective learning environments. Ultimately, applying these insights helps us become better educators and supports our students in reaching their full potential.